Hey race fans, it's Taylor and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. And today's a little different. As you can see, I have a microphone out, I got my computer out, and I want to do a tier list together, ranking the drivers, giving them grades up from an A all the way down to an F. I had these grades as soon as the last race ended, and I didn't get to making a video until now. I had to take a little bit of a break, making more content as well. So hopefully I'm not too late to the party, but I also want to see your tier list and how you rank the drivers. So drop the ratings in the description below, or even tag me in them on Twitter at _TaylorKitchen_ to do that, because I want to see what you all thought, or if you disagree, if you agree. But for now, let's get into it. I'm going to focus on the regular season drivers mostly. I'm going to have some drivers that ran at least most of the races in here. But let's start with the driver of the number one car. We got Kurt Busch here. His season. I liked his season a lot. I think he did a really good job. I mean, he won a race one. He got into the playoffs. That's what's expected of him. I was very disappointed, though, that he got out after the round of 12. I had him going to the round of 8 at least. I also kind of thought maybe in some different world he would be a shocker in the championship 4. But, you know, with the equipment at Chip Ganassi Racing compared to Hendrick Motorsports and what Joe Gibbs had this season, I think that was a long shot. But it wasn't a bad season for Kurt. And I think he showed up. Road courses he did fairly well. I know Chip Ganassi Racing this season, even with Ross Chastain, there was something to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and give Kurt Busch, I think I'm going to rate him, do I want to give him an A? I'm going to give him an A. I'm going to give him an A-. So he's in the A category at least. I skipped a number. We got to go to Quinn Half. His season was not great, and he ended the season not great. We're not going to talk about this, guys. We're just going to give him an F. I'm sorry, Quinn Half. Let's move on to Brad Keselowski. Now, the season is not the one we would expect from Keselowski. Of course, he has, as we've talked about many times before, the deal with now Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing coming up, going to be in the number 6 next season, not going to be in Penske anymore. But he didn't drive, for me, the best I think he could have, though obviously there was a lot going on. But I also don't know if that is because there was a lot going on or if there is a decline in ability, and I don't think that is the case for Brad Keselowski. But again, he made it into the playoffs. He exceeded, I think, everyone's expectations. I had him out in the round of, after the first round of the playoffs, he made it past into the round of 8. So because of that, and he really picked up his stats in the playoffs, I'm going to give him a B. More like a B minus range for me for Brad Keselowski. Moving on to number 3, Austin Dillon. He was talked about quite a bit this season, in the middle beginning part, but he was kind of like, I don't want to say lackluster for me, but kind of lackluster. Though compared to teammate Tyler Reddick, which we'll get to in a second, season wasn't as great as I think it was compared to Tyler Reddick. I don't want to give him a C because I feel like that's really harsh because he did do well this year stats wise. I'm going to put him in the B category, but I say that with it being a B-, and I think more so of a B- compared to Brad Keselowski's B-. Moving on to number 4, Kevin Harvick. Now, SHR as a whole, I'm not going to endlessly just crap on the organization because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to grade them based on their performance this season, not just the team as a whole. But Kevin Harvick really held the team together this year, and that is something that has to be noted. He really, of course, picked up the stats in the playoffs and almost won that race if it weren't for like his shuffle with Chase Elliott at Martinsville. Here's my problem with Kevin Harvick. I can't give him an A. I can't give him a B, I don't feel like. I feel like a C is good. I'm going to put him at a C. A D is definitely not kind, I think, for how much he had to carry the team on his back this season. So I'm going to put Kevin Harvick at a C. It'll be more like a C+, just because. Okay, guys, up next is Kyle Larson. We don't even need to talk about this. He gets an A++. I mean, you win like 10 races during the season, best in stats pretty much all the time. Always in the front, best average finish, I think, throughout the season. Yeah, there's no arguing. Okay, next driver is Ryan Newman, and I hate this. I don't want this to be the way he goes out of the sport because he's had a career that needs to be appreciated. And unfortunately, this year for him was not that year. I know after that crash at Daytona, I can't imagine how much it would shake you up. And he hasn't really driven the same. But I really commend him for coming back into the sport and stepping back in the car, because I know if I was in that situation, I would not have stepped back in the car. I would have said early retirement, I'm done. But I also hate that now Newman's in a position where he doesn't have a deal on the table right now, as far as I know. He doesn't have a set future, and he's going to be going out of the sport with, I think, statistically his worst season yet. And because of that, I got to give him an F. I love Rocket Man, but it just was not his year. He's going to rank higher than Quinn Half, hopefully. I don't know if I can get that over. There we go. He's going to rank higher than Quinn Half, definitely. But for me, Brian Newman unfortunately gets an F. So we're going to pick up here with Corey Lejoy. Now, here's the thing with Corey. I think he really improved this year. His stats are much better. He was near the front a lot of the time, and there was a lot of races that we were actually talking about him. I think his team did a really good job this year focusing on strategy. That was just my opinion and assessment of his season. But because of his improvement from last season, especially, and obviously the equipment's different, I'm going to give him a C+. I think that's good for Lejoy. Next up is Tyler Reddick. Now, this is a driver I'm excited to talk about for many reasons. One, I've talked about him a lot this season. I thought he was going to win a race this season. I could say the same thing about Ross Chastain, and he could have. I think, though, maturity, not as a person, I think he's a very mature person, but maturity as a driver is not quite there yet. I think he took unnecessary risks that he shouldn't have, that put him in a bad position, put his team in a bad position. However, he was near the front of the field a lot of the time, and he was pretty much a contender at a lot of these races, especially the ones where you could really ride the high line of the track. I think he did really well in those. And I see some of Harvick in his driving when he does that, and especially Kyle Larson is able to do the same thing. But I think he did really well. Statistically, I'm pretty sure this was his best season yet. And I think because of that, I got to give him a B+. I don't know if that's too generous. I'm going to put him, I don't know if I put him ahead of Keselowski, though. That's what I struggle with. But I'm going to put him ahead of Keselowski. I mean, he was able to make it into the playoffs. He was able to beat out his teammate, Austin Dillon, who, like I said earlier, didn't have as great as a season as Tyler Reddick. So I'm going to give Reddick a B+. We're going to do that. All right, now we're on to Chase Elliott. So I struggle with this one. One, because I am a Chase Elliott fan. But two, statistically, I think this season ended up being better than last. I think he had a better average finishing position overall in the season. However, he only had 2 wins, and those wins came at road courses. And there was no oval track wins, which I was shocked about. But I also am wondering if Kyle Larson wasn't a factor at all this season. Like, if you took him out of the equation, would Chase Elliott have been able to win races? I also think about mistakes on pit road or mistakes pre-race. If those didn't happen, would he have won on an oval? And those are questions that we're never going to know. But because the stats and because he made it into the championship 4, and I think a lot of us feared that he won it, especially coming to Martinsville, even with the Roval, or some retaliation there, I'm going to give Chase Elliott an A-. I think that's fair. It wasn't the season I think we all expected, but in hindsight, when you take a look at the numbers, it proves to be a little bit better than last year or on par. So now to 10, and this is one I want to give Aric Almirola an F for this season, because if it wasn't for the Cinderella story win, it would be a total failure of a season, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people are probably giving him the benefit of the doubt with that New Hampshire win that was rain shortened, and I am a person who believes a race is a race. You win it when it's rain shortened, you still want a race, even though it kind of sucks to win that way. I feel like you got to back it up, and I don't feel Aric was able to actually back that up at all. Of course, he made it into the playoffs because of that win, but otherwise, if you take that win out, he was one of the lowest in points of all the regular season drivers. And I hate to discount the win here, but I am going to give Aric Almirola, I'm going to give him an F. Lots of y'all are going to disagree with me on that, but I'm going to give him like an F+, a D-, honestly. That one I feel rocky on, but we're going to continue. We move on. Okay, moving on to Denny Hamlin. I think he was on par with Kyle Larson this whole season, pretty much. He was very consistent with average finishing positions. He held the best average through the regular season. He was almost the regular season's points champion, and then Kyle Larson took it from under him at the last second. And I think because of that, we got to put him, I'm pretty sure, like ahead of course, ahead of Kurt Busch here. We got to give him an A. I think an A is pretty fair for Hamlin. I am disappointed he did not win the championship, though. That was the thing. I was hoping that would happen for him this year, because after this year, statistically, if you look back at all the other drivers that have won the championship in their ages, this was like the last good year for him to do it, especially as he's moving into an ownership role. He is in ownership now. I don't know if he's going to have another good opportunity again. And I think a win would solidify his place in the NASCAR Hall of Fame regardless. He is has won the Daytona 500 more than once. That's hard to do. He's won it more than twice. So regardless, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, but I think a championship for him would be so good to have. But I'm going to place him there. I'm going to move Kurt Busch below Chase Elliott here. There we go. All right, we're up to 12. We're up to Ryan Blainey. This one for me is an easy A, and this is not because I'm a Ryan Blainey fan. His season, statistically the best one he's ever had. He has had multiple wins this season. That's new for him. He has never had a multi-win season. And he made it deep into the playoffs. Now, I think if Austin Dillon didn't crash him out in the round of 8, and then did it pretty much again when we went to Martinsville, I think he would have been in the championship 4. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Elliot got lucky with the circumstance, in my opinion. Keselowski almost made it in if he would have won at Martinsville. And I'm also shocked that Kyle Busch didn't make it in, but we'll get to that in a second. I honestly think Ryan Blainey deserves an A. It's just a matter of, does he go above Chase Elliott? In my opinion, I actually think yes. I just feel like he was able to grow this season, and I feel like he made consistent progress. I feel like Chase Elliott, it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Even though statistically, I think Elliott might have had a better season. I need to be fact check on that. But I think Ryan Blainey did a better job than Elliott this season, and that's hard for me to say sometimes. But yeah, I'm going to give Ryan Blainey I'm going to give him an A. I'm going to give Ryan Blainey an A. We're going to get into another Stewart-Haas driver here. We got Chase Briscoe. I'm thinking of when he almost won the race, then spun out Denny Hamlin, and I think of the mistakes all the time. I mean, it's not just for the drivers, it's for myself too. But as a whole, I saw him perform better, in my opinion, than his teammate Cole Custer did. He was, I always base it off of, because I'm obviously not at the races watching, how much they talk about them on the broadcast and where I see them in the lineup. I'm going to put him below Lejoy here. If anything, I'm going to give him a C-. Just did not have a season. Like I said, Stewart-Haas as a whole, not done well. So we're going to move on. Next up is Chris Buescher. So I mentioned in an earlier podcast that he's improved. I think as a driver maturity, I think he's improved as well. But also, if you look at the stats, though, he, I think, is 1 top 5 or 1 top 10 short of this being his best statistical season yet, is in terms of how he finishes the races. And because of that, I have to look at the stats here. I can't reasonably, I don't think I can give him a B. I think I'm going to give him a C+, though. He's not going to outrank Harvick. I think he's tied with Lejoy here and how they rank. But I think Chris Buescher had a pretty decent season for the equipment he's in. And I think he's going to be a really good asset moving forward for RFK. I really think that's going to be really good for them. On to the Candy Man. We got Kyle Busch. Now, I had him in my championship 4, so I have a little bit of a anger, frustration towards Kyle Busch this year, because I thought my championship 4 bracket was final. I thought it was good. And then he doesn't make it by a few points, but I think I have to give him credit where credit's due. I think he was the first of the drivers in the field to really crack the Hendrick code. He was the first driver to break their win streak. And I think that says a lot about how he was able to adjust to, how do you defeat the Chevys this year? But like I said, he didn't advance as far as I thought, even though the next round he could go into was a championship 4, which was a little disappointing to me. But regardless, I think I still have to give him an A. I'm going to give him an A-. The question is, he outranks his brother in this category. Does he outrank Chase Elliott? I think no. So I'm going to put him right there next to him. Okay, Martin Trixx Jr. This one's tough, and I've said this for a lot of guys, but this one in particular because I feel like Truex has not been a guy that's been talked about a lot this season. However, he made it to the championship 4, kind of a shock, and I think that's going to add to the rating I give him. It was a lackluster season for me. And I think I've got to give him a B+ to give him benefit of the doubt, because he really didn't start to get moving until the playoffs. And I think he got lucky with the schedule for the playoffs, because the last round was tracks that he was really good at. We got Phoenix. He's good at Phoenix. Of course, he got a runner-up finish yet again. Regardless, he did well at it. Obviously, Martinsville, it has his name in it. He's going to do fine. Though he is a quiet driver in the field. And he shows up when you least expect it, or he's there and you just don't notice it until he wins a race and you're like, how did that happen? So I gotta give him a B. All right, next up is Christopher Bell, and I still look at the 20 and I think Erik Jones. Here's the thing with Christopher Bell. He impressed me this season, and he exceeded my expectations. If you listen to the very beginning of Above the Yellow Line this season, I had very low expectations for him. I was not happy that he took Erik Jones' ride. And I was nervous, honestly, for the future of the 20 car. But then he goes on to win a race, one of the second points race of the season. He won the Daytona Road Course, makes it into the playoffs, makes it past the round of 12, which I don't think any of us expected. And he outperformed his teammates at some point. But overall, I think I'm going to give him an A-. I don't know if that's too much for him. I think he surpassed Kurt Busch for me, because Kurt Busch did let me down in the playoffs a little bit. But I don't think he outperformed Kyle Busch or Denny Hamlin this season, so I'm going to put him right in between there. All right, next up is a tricky one. Matt Benedetto. We're not going to talk about the off-track stuff on here. You all know it. We just keep it in your brain. But on-track performance, let's look at that for a second. So he changed crew chiefs right at the All-Star race. Is when he got a new crew chief. They tried something new, and like I said, that was the perfect time to try something new. It is a non-points race. You get to kind of feel the team out. You get to kind of find your groove a little bit. But I don't feel like they found their groove. I honestly feel like the team still struggled. They struggled a little less, but almost just as much. This team still lacked consistency, and I think for Matt, I'm not going to give him an F. I think a D is too harsh. But you know what? I don't have anyone in the D category right now. I think I'm going to give him a D+, to be quite honest. I just feel, and I know I'm not supposed to factor off-track things in here, but he knew this was the last year in this ride. Things were changing around him. I don't know if he made the best of his situation, and I think that affected his driving as well. So I'm going to give Matt Benedetto a D. All right, up next is the 22 Joey Logano. I'm going to give Joey Logano a B. I think he outranks his teammate. I think he also outranks Tyler Reddick here. You know, his season, I think Penske as a whole, I mean, they had a very quiet season. Of course, they were one of the top three contenders that we had. Of course, Joe Gibbs Racing, Penske, and then Hendrick. I just feel like the two veteran drivers on the team really didn't take the lead. I feel like Ryan Blainey really drove that team this year. And I think next year, though, I honestly think Ryan Blainey might be the face of the team next season, just because of how well he did this time. But we all know that one good season previously does not mean a good season next year. I don't hope that for Ryan Blainey, but we know how it works. But I think having Joey Logano on the team, obviously won the championship in 2018, will be a good asset to have, especially Ryan Blainey being young, Austin Cindric joining the team. This is his first year in a Cup car. He is very experienced, though. Very talented. I think that's going to be a really good combination going into next season, as well as having Harrison Burton in the 21 next season. All these young drivers, I hope, and I think Joey Logano can lead the team and give them some good direction. But this season, it wasn't necessarily what I expected from him, but also he won the Bristol dirt race. I mean, he kind of showed up the dirt drivers in there. Never went on dirt before. I think the week before the Bristol dirt race, that was like his first time, or at least the month of. First time on the dirt, and he won. And I think that was really cool to say. And yeah, I think a B is pretty decent for Joey Logano, and I like a B+ area in that. Okay, next up is Bubba Wallace. Okay, so I'm just gonna go out and say it. I'm gonna give him a C. I definitely feel like he outperformed. I don't know if he outperformed Buescher, and stats might prove me wrong here, but I'm going off of what I remember and what I feel. And obviously, yes, Bubba Wallace won a race, a rain-shortened race. Like I said, a rain-shortened race is still a race won. But he had a really rocky start to the season, and I think a lot of that is expectations that were put on him. I mean, everyone wanted him to win a race. Everyone wanted him to do well, and with a new team, new equipment, a new crew, a new organization, that's impossible to live up to. And if you do, that's great. And obviously, you know, he won the race. So I guess in that respect, he outperformed, I think, Chris Buescher. Corey Lejoy, I think, and him are sort of on par. I do think Bubba did a little better than Corey Lejoy this year, and definitely not as good as Kevin Harvick did. But I really hope I see improvement from the 23 team moving into next season. And I think having Kurt Busch on the team will be some really good direction for them, because I think they really need that. But yeah, I think Bubba Wallace, a well-deserved, a good C+. All right, Willoughby. We got William Byron, 24. You know, I was impressed with this guy this season. I mean, he had a streak of top 10s. I kept track of this, and I feel like this was so long ago. This was back in the spring. He had like 9 or 10 top 10s in a row, and then lost the streak. But he has statistically the best season he has ever had in this series, and obviously he's only been here a few years, but still. The 24 is that number within itself. That is some big shoes to fill. Elliot wasn't able to win in it, but William Byron is. He also won a race this season, and I think that was impressive within itself. I would have said if he didn't win a race this season, I still would have thought he had an impressive season based on the amount of average finishes he had in the top 5 and top 10s. I'm going to give William Byron, I think, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give him an A, just an A. Does he outperform his teammate, though? That is the question. Definitely not Larson. Elliot, though, part of me wants to say he did, but then when it came to the playoff time, he kind of let me down. I'm going to say he outperformed Christopher Bell. Didn't outperform Kyle Busch, though. But yeah, I'm going to give William Byron an A. All right, next up is Michael McDowell, skipping to the 34 here. He won the Daytona 500. Statistically, it was bound to happen. He had the best average finish at that race at the track. And so, yeah, he did that. He got some great sponsorship, which gave, put some money into the car. And he was able to perform pretty decently this season. I'm going to give McDowell, I think, what do I want to give him? I'm going to give Michael McDowell a C+. I think this season was on par for him. Definitely not better than, where do I want to put him? I'm going to put him right below Chris Buescher there. I think he performed decently well. But I think it was what we expected from Michael McDowell this season. All right, we got Ryan Preece now, and I keep compiling people into the C category, but I also am aware that Ryan Preece won a truck race. It was his first start in the truck race, in the truck series, and he won, and I think that was really impressive. So for me, it shows that he is very talented, and he can win. You just have to put him in the right equipment, and right now he's not, but regardless, he did pretty well this season. But, him not being in all the races this season, it's very hard to give him an A or a B. I'm going to give him a C. I'm going to rank him below, well, no, he goes above Chase Briscoe. That's a lie. I'm going to place him in between McDowell and Chase Briscoe. Next up is Anthony Alfredo. Now, let go from his ride, and the 38 has gone through, I think, 3 different drivers in 3 years, which I think is a little scary. Next up to fill that seat is Todd Gilliland, and I think he's going to be a great fit for the car. However, I'm also aware that Todd is jumping from trucks to Cup, which is very scary. Even though it's an exciting opportunity. But in terms of Anthony Alfredo here, he crashed a lot this season, DNF'd a few too many times for my taste. I don't know if he was a big factor this season. I don't want to give him an F.
But I'm going to give him an F.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. My question now is, I'm going to place this here. I want to know what you guys think. But we know Eric Almirola won a race. I know. I'm very aware. But does Anthony Alfredo... This is also probably a really dumb question. Does he rank better than Ryan Newman? No, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that Anthony Alfredo did better than Quinn Half this season. I don't think he did better than Ryan Newman. Let me know what you think in the comments. So we're going to move on now. Speaking of not performing well, let's go to Cole Custer. I'm going to give him a D. We're going to add to that category. I don't think he did as well as Matt Benedetto did. Like I said, the whole team was off. I don't need to go into that anymore. He won a race last season at Kentucky and went winless this season. And I don't know if Kentucky was lucky. I don't remember exactly because, it was COVID in my brain. So, without winning a race, stats really not backing it up. I think statistically a worse season than last year. He gets a D in my opinion. I think that's fair. I don't think it's great to give him an F just because, he still showed up. He still raced. For me, he didn't stand out as having a horrible season. Or a horrible season, so I'm going to give him a D. All right, we are up to Ross Chastain in the 42. Here's the thing. I like the guy. I think he's cool. He scares me to death sometimes, but I thought he was going to win a race this year. I made a really bold prediction, that he was going to win at least one race this season, basically from the start of the playoffs until the very end, just because he was improving. He was doing very well. I remember at one of the road courses when it was raining, I'm pretty sure I think this was Circuit of the Americas. He was like plowing through the rain, and I was like, oh my God, dude's going to win a race. And he was just relentless on that track. We saw him towards the front a lot. He was talked a lot about in the broadcast. I'm going to give Ross Chastain a B. Yeah. I'm going to put him on par with Tyler Reddick here. I know I talk about them both like side by side a lot this season. And I think it's fair to say, I think Tyler Reddick did better. I also think Keselowski might have done better. You know what? That's a lie. I'm going to put Ross Chastain below Brad Keselowski, I think. Let me know what you think. I don't know if I feel good about that. Okay, next up is Erik Jones. I'm going to give him a C. I'm going to put him in between Chris Buescher, and I'm going to also put him in between Corey Lejoy there. He had a decent season with the equipment he has. Obviously, being moved from Joe Gibbs equipment to Richard Petty is very different, different manufacturer as well. So he had a lot that he was battling, but I think given the circumstance, I think he did decently well. So I'm going to give him a solid, just a C, maybe C+. Or Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I'm not going to go into this a lot. I think he did okay this season. I think he was on par with what we would expect from him. I'm going to give him a C as well. I'm going to put him, I think, below Chris Buescher here. All right, here's a big one. We have Alex Bowman. I don't know how to feel about him. He won 4 times this season? Yeah, I think so. If my math is correct, I can't believe I don't remember how many times he won. I think it was 4. That doesn't seem right. I know a lot of his wins were considered luck, were considered, the winner got out of the way, he was able to sneak his way in, and that's how a lot of his wins have been. We haven't really seen him win in true dominance. Now, at Martinsville, though, yes, the Denny Hamlin thing, that was a pretty dramatic, but he did have a really good car. So I think he was bound to win or at least get second place at that point. But this whole season, compared to his teammates, he was a little missing in action. I'm going to give him a B+. And I know that's weird to say from having 4 wins, but I can't give him an A. Just if you compare him to the talent of Hendrick Motorsports, and yes, he is talented, but from the seasons they have all had, and statistically wise, if you take out the wins, Bowman had a worse season than the rest of them. So I'm going to give him a B. Okay, now we're up to Cody Ware. We're getting to our last few drivers here. From what I saw, though, I don't know that he did horribly to deserve an F. I also don't know if he did well enough to deserve a C. I also know Rick Ware right now is looking to revamp their program. I know that they're selling some charters, getting a better operation so they can be more competitive next season. So I think next season I'll have a better idea of where they stand. But right now I'm going to give Cody Ware a D, and I hope that's fair. I'm sure we would all agree with that assessment, just from based on what I saw with his performance this season and Rick Ware as a whole. All right, now we're up to Josh Belicky. I think I'm going to give him a D as well. This is partially a little bit of a lack of knowledge, but this is also based on what I saw on the TV and what I've been able to read, and a lot of what I've been able to read about Belicky and even Ware is just here's where they finished, here's the week they had. I know they're generally really good guys. I know that they're really cool. I love Cody Ware's advocacy for mental health. I think that's awesome. But season-wise, I think it's going to be interesting next year to see what they do in these new cars, and I think then we can gauge, but it's also going to be tough because they're new cars. They're not what we're used to seeing them perform in. So that rating's going to be off a little bit, but I think for Josh Belicky, I'm good with giving him a D. If we go on to BJ McLeod in the 78, there it is. There it is. I think I'm going to give him a D as well. I feel bad just kind of shoving them all in the D category, but I think that's what I'm going to have to do. It's not totally a lack of knowledge. It's just a lack of really knowing their seasons that well. So they could easily be in the C category. Let me know what you think of those 3 drivers, particularly as we go into the last driver, which is going to be Daniel Suarez. I thought he was going to win 2 this season. I had him winning, I think the Daytona 500 is what my prediction was. I think I had him winning another one. I think I had him winning the second Daytona race as well, as just a potential kind of dark horse win. I think he had a really hot start to the season, and then it kind of slowed down near the end. And I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was a lack of consistency. I know Trackhouse was making a lot of changes, obviously bringing in Ross Chastain now, buying Chip Ganassi's stuff. I'm going to give Daniel Suarez, I think I'm going to give him a C. I'm going to put him in between, I'm going to put him in between Lejoy and Jones right here. Okay, guys, how do we feel about this? I'm not really sure, but these are my rankings from the season from A to F. I want to know yours, though, so tag me in them on Twitter or comment them in the comments below. But, guys, this is it for this episode of Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. Thanks all for tuning in, but if you want to check out more content from the channel, make sure you follow me on Twitter for daily fan questions. We also do Twitter Spaces, some opinionated pieces, and also we share some NASCAR news on there. Also, follow me on Instagram, where we post about our latest uploads and also some behind the scenes of how we post and what we're doing and what we're working on for Above the Yellow Line. Finally, make sure to check out the podium finish. We have some great NASCAR content there and motorsport content from previews, recaps, driver interviews, and more. It's a great time, so make sure to check that out. All linked in the description below. But before you do that, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your friends and family. And guys, thank you all so much for watching this episode and supporting the channel. Now until next time, I'll see ya.